Hi everyone, it's Silence. For my first Oracle Tarot deck review comparison exploration video, I'm not quite sure what these are going to be, so I'm leaving it a little bit open-ended. The first one I really want to get into is one of my personal favorites, and although I hesitate to say, oh, this deck is going to be with me forever and ever and ever, this one might actually be. That is until it falls to pieces, which it might, you know, someday not too far in the future. You can already see the box is a little bit hashed. That's because it comes from, where is it? Well, wherever it says so. It's from, what is it, Game Maker? Game Crafter. It's from GameCrafter.com. And they are, well, primarily a game producer, and they're like a print-on-demand game company. They do, I know they do a lot of card games. They do, I think, a couple other things with like tokens and lots and stuff, but they also do print-on-demand tarot and oracle decks. And, well, you get, it's not well produced in the sense that it's not, the cards aren't very durable. The box clearly is not that durable. It's real thin. It's real cheap. But you know what? I would take a thin, cheap copy of the Oracle of Arcane Bullshit over not having the Oracle of Arcane Bullshit, because I really like this deck just that much. I'd rather have kind of a crummy version than none whatsoever. And you can see, like, the cards aren't cut even. It's just kind of all over the place. But honestly, the printing is fairly good, at least in this deck. I can't really speak to any of the others. This is an Oracle deck. It's not tarot, so you don't have familiar cards. In fact, you're not going to find probably half-priced Hot Wings, Robo-Dodo. Here's the Something card. These are not cards you're going to find probably in any other deck, and that might be a good thing in some of your opinion. I love it. I absolutely love this deck. The Former Child Star. Here's one. It's probably nothing. Let's see. The Bird Book Snake thing. Oh, here's one we're all familiar with. You're fucked. You just fucked. That's it. That's all you've got is just you're fucked. I refer to this deck as the Spirit Worker Special, and if you have a card that says you're fucked, yeah, that's something that Spirit Workers kind of need to know. A lot of people need to know that, but I find that certainly in my experience as a Spirit Worker, as a whatever the hell I am, you know, a card like the Dildo Wizard actually means something. And so I don't know what your spirit work practice looks like if you happen to have one, but these are cards that really speak to the weirdness, that feeling of edgy desperation, like, please just tell me what I need to do. What am I struggling with? Why do I feel like crap? What is this situation that's really weird? It's very unusual. No one can tell me how to figure my way out of this. This is the deck that kind of speaks to very strange situations and to concerns that many other tools are simply not designed to accommodate. And maybe it's that intention of design that sets this apart. Because this is, if I must label it, I would say this is a Discordian deck. It's not intended to mean anything except what you happen to bring to it. Sorry, I had to stop the video and restart. There's no loaded meaning. In fact, it kind of, the deck forces you to embrace the meaninglessness of the symbols we often deal with in tarot. And I'm not saying that tarot is meaningless, because I've been a diviner for a really long time, and it's not meaningless. but sometimes skipping past the meanings that we come with preconceptions about limits to some extent what the tool is able to do for us. And that's just a nature of something like the tarot that has a very long history. This has no history, you know, past, oh, I don't know, a couple years ago. Here, meaningless garbage. Rhubarb Tony, knees. The flying man. Is he flying? I usually read this as he's falling. Now, I actually get incredibly good readings out of this deck. I like to use it especially for spirit workers, like I kind of said. A lot of spirit workers seem to understand its humor. They kind of get the darkness to it, but also the beauty and the flexibility and the dynamism that this deck really brings. Urinal death. You want to know about that if that's in your future. Let's lay out another stack. I'm not going to lay out all the cards because I truly don't know how much recording time I have on my tiny cell phone. Baseball goat. Card of cards. It's gorgeous. The Pie Knight. I get really good readings. I read intuitively as well as kind of based on the meanings of different decks that the decks bring, you know, pre-built in them. This one goes straight to the intuitive aspect of my reading practice, but a card like Shrimp and Guns has a meaning to me. Like for me, I tend to read this as poorly planned hedonism. Like it seems like what movies like to portray a weekend in Vegas as being. It's all just cheap shrimp and guns, and you know what? It ends in tears. There's food poisoning and someone gets hurt. That is Shrimp and Guns to me. It sounds fun. Seafood and weapons, but it ends in tears. So I do see a lot of meaning in these cards. Well, a lot might be a slight exaggeration, but there is meaning. And once again, I had to stop and fix my video stuff. Anyway, getting back to what I was saying about, I feel like there's no inherent reason why, say, the Four of Cups in the Rider-Waite-Smith refers to the various aspects of indulgence and even hedonism, both the exhaustion and the desire for it, and like, is this making me happy? There's no reason why that symbol should refer to those meanings and not Shrimp and Guns, for instance. We're talking about the same or a similar subject, a very related subject of indulgence and excess, and so why not Shrimp and Guns? And so there's no real reason except for cultural tradition and the meanings attributed to, say, cups and chalices, that we have chosen to use those symbols to mean those things in a certain context. So this kind of short circuits tarot imagery and even oracle imagery, and gives you, well, it certainly gave me a brand new visual vocabulary to work with when reading for people. Here is the Pantsless Beekeeper, someone hardworking but perhaps not terribly well informed about the job they need to be doing. The Sword Hoarder, the Beefcake, and Nobody. Here is, yeah, there's that. The Parasitic Fruit. It's cool. Like, this is a cool deck. This is fun. Some people may find that the stripy swirly backgrounds on most of these cards are a little migraine inducing. They're usually okay for me, and I'm pretty sensitive to that kind of thing, but certainly your mileage will absolutely vary. Nip Slip Pope, the robot riding a gorilla, the floppy key, future grandma, the giant sperm fighting a dove. Let's get another stack going. This wasn't the cheapest deck, but it also wasn't really all that expensive. I want to say I probably spent about $25 for the initial deck, and then there was an expansion pack that I purchased for, oh, probably an extra $10. And I think that was why the cards are cut weird, because some of them came from the initial deck itself, and some came from the expansion pack, and once they're shuffled together, it's just a little different. The cards are also not great quality. Like they're pretty flimsy. Thankfully, I have not spilled water on this deck. I've spilled water on several of my decks. Because I'm that guy. I'm that person who will carry poorly sealed cups of water in the same bag as tarot decks and all of my, cards that I use for readings. And at PantheaCon, I usually will have my cane with me because there's a lot of walking involved, and all that walking really gets on my knees. And so I have to cram everything in a giant bag and walk around with that in order to kind of save myself some steps. Infinite Cosmic Mess. How's that feeling for you? Like, yeah, I love it. I love it. This deck makes me incredibly happy. I've only read with this for other people a few times. Like there's people who have come to me before who seem to really, really like this. And I've read for a few other people, and they really just don't seem to get it. It doesn't work for them. They're a little put off by, cards like Giving Birth to a Skull or the Gravy Funnel. And I get that, there's decks for everyone. There's decks for every preference, for every taste, and that's what kind of makes reading with cards and divining with cards so exciting and fun, is you get to explore and discover what your tastes in art and divination art in particular really are. Perhaps the first deck that I really gravitated towards was called Tarot of the Cat People, and it was that retro deck. And I liked it because it was in that big black book called, Time Life series, Mysteries of the Unknown, and it was the divination volume. And the back supplement thing, there was a whole chapter just on tarot, and you got to see a few different decks, and I was so inspired that I actually made my own deck based on all of the pictures that were in this book. And I remember using the plastic case that cassette tapes came in. I used that as a template to trace, and so none of them made sense. And I don't have that deck, so don't ask. It passed from this world a very long time ago. And yeah, so if you had told me when I was, little 12-year-old kid, oh, you're gonna someday have a deck with the card Raptor riding a dolphin in space, I'd be like, what are you even talking about? That's not in the Time Life book. What are you talking about? You're just done with it. Like, this is weird. This is kind of weird and nasty and gross. This is meaningless to me, and that's okay. There's so many other great decks to try and find, and here, hopefully your life is not going to end in shrimp and guns, but hey, if you're a spirit worker, it probably already has.